It's a fast and pacey wrap of all the top stories over the past 7 days. Welcome to Week in One, your quick fix of the top stories and interviews featured on ENCA. My name is Dibuseng Milwe. Let's bring you up to speed. It's been a green and gold week as the Springboks rewrote the history books and received a hero's welcome after their World Cup triumph.
Whether you want to accept it or not, I am a doctor.
Charges have been dropped against the man known to his thousands of TikTok followers as Dr. Matthew Lani. And ENCA gets an exclusive interview with Senzo Meyiwa's mother, Ntombifuthi Meyiwa, as the trial within a trial continues to play out in court. It's been 9 years since former Bafana Bafana captain Senzo Meyiwa was murdered, and the 5 men accused of his murder are still on trial. Meyiwa's mother says she doesn't have closure and watching the court case has been a torment. In an exclusive interview with ENCA's Mangcoba Mchunu, Ntombifuthi Meyiwa pleads for justice.
Isimo mengibuka iTV, icala ngilibuka. Ngiyalibuka icala kubhlungu. Ngithwala izandla ekhanda ngiphume ngishone ngale inhliziyo ibhlungu igxabha inhliziyo ifuna ukuphuma ngomlomo kodwa ngibuye ngizohlala phansi ngibuke kubhlungu kunjalo zehle inyembe zingikhala ngibuke ngithi kodwa uNkulunkulu wami yena lo owabulala ingane yami akasazweli akasenabo ubhlungu uthi angibahlukumezile abantu bakameyo angisale sengivela ke kungani esibulala kancane kancane sizwe.
9 years on, and the wounds are still fresh for Senzo Meyiwa's mother. It was a quiet evening on the 26th of October in 2014 when Ntombifuthi and her late husband Sam learnt of their son's murder.
Abongane yami ngoba ngifanga ngalela langa umuntu akafi ngokufa komunye umuntu. Ngoba ngifanga ngalela langa. Ngoba ngifanga ngalela langa. Hayi ngane yami. Hayi.
5 men are currently on trial accused of Meyiwa's murder. But despite this, Meyiwa's mother says she still doesn't have all the answers.
Ngicela ukubuza ke kuyena ukuthi ngicela ukuyibusela nje. Wena wathatha isibhamu sibhekise enganeni yami. Ukuthi yini le ingane yami eyenzile enkulu kangaka? Yini le yenza ukuthi ingane yami uyibulalisa kwesigebengu? Ungathi iqinzibalanga yesigebengu. Yini le yenza ukuthi uzwise ubhlungu omngaka? Unyaka u9 iphelile. Sihlala esikhala kubhlungu ubuka iTV uthi hawu badela abantu abanemali ngoba bayabusa bayazenzela.
She says she's now pinning her hopes on God for justice to be served.
Ngoba uNkulunkulu ukhona usazokhuluma uNkulunkulu usazophendula uNkulunkulu esemkhonzayo uyakhuluma uNkulunkulu esemkhonzayo uyangenelela ezimeni nalesi simo sikusona njengamanje uNkulunkulu unathi ukulomlili sikubona lobuhlungu sizwayo uNkulunkulu wethu akashiyile.
Meyiwa says she hopes one day the mastermind behind her son's murder will be revealed.
Uyazazi wena noma ulele lapho ulele ebusuku uyazi ukuthi ngawukhipha umphefumulo kahle nosenzo uyakwazi naye khona ukuthi umuntu wangibulala ubani uyakwazi yini kodwa ungabusahamba oyinikela uthi mina sekwanele senguzwisile lo mndeni ubhlungu sekwanele manje sebebuzwile ubhlungu badinga ukuphila nabo njengabantu wasibulala kancane kancane konakelepi senzeni yini siyenzile yini nasibulala siphila nasizwisa ubhlungu yazi nisibulala kancane niyasibulala kodwa ngithi uNkulunkulu ukhona.
But while 3 of the people who were inside the house, including Meyiwa's friends, have been called to the stand, his mother believes all those who were in the house on the night of the shooting should be called to answer.
Awubathula abantu belazi iqiniso. Awubathula abantu belazi iqiniso. Ukuthi kwenzekani ngengane yami? Awembulali kaSenzo. Ulele ebusuku namhlanje. Naku umyalezo engishiya nawo. Uyolala ebusuku. Uzolala kanjani? Ungibona ngikhala. Uzolala kanjani ungibona ngikhala ngibalisa? Ngento ngobhlungu ozwisa bona la ekhaya emndenini wakaMeyiwa. kodwa ubulazi kahle iqiniso ukuthi nguwena onze wakuthatha isibhamu sibhekise enganeni yami.
For now, though, the long wait for justice continues. Manqoba Mchunu, Johannesburg.
Meanwhile, accused one in the Senzo Meyiwa murder trial, Muzikawo Kulelwa Sibiya, was allegedly assaulted until he missed himself shortly after his arrest. That's the contention by Sibiya's defense, who says their client was tortured into confessing. ENCA's Manqoba Mchunu was in the Pretoria High Court this week.
Muzika Kulelwa Sibiya maintains that Constable Jabulani Buthelezi was one of the officers who tortured him into making a confession. Buthelezi was part of a team of officers from the now disbanded SWAT unit in Ekurhuleni that arrested Sibiya in Tembisa on the 30th of May 2020. The defense says his torture started moments later.
After Litabong, after he was assaulted, accused number 1 messed up himself.
I do not know about that.
Yes, because that was a reason for you to take him so that he can change his clothes.
That is a lie before this court because that was not the reason.
Previously, Buthelezi revealed how live rounds of ammunition were found in Sibiya's shack, but the police's conduct when arresting him has also been questioned.
The door was kicked open, his shack was searched, and he was taken further he was transported to Vosloorus, where he was further assaulted and demanded to tell the truth about the death of Senzo Meyiwa.
I want to explain to the court that at the time and in that minute, when I was in the presence of the accused, there was no time when he was assaulted.
The defense also questioned why Sibiya spent so many hours with police before being taken to his cell.
So it means from midday on the 30th up until early hours of the 31st, that is only when the accused was detained for the first time.
That is correct.
What was happening all this time?
The investigating officer was still investigating.
Okay, no, it's fine.
More police officers are expected to take the stand as a trial within a trial continues. Manqoba Mchunu, Pretoria.
Charges dropped due to lack of evidence. But is this the end of the road for the case against the man known to his thousands of TikTok followers as Dr. Matthew Lani? While law enforcement agencies remain mum, ENCA reporter Bulele Treaty Jones spoke to a social media law expert who believes there is a case to answer to.
Whether you want to accept it or not, I am a doctor. I am a doctor.
Well, according to one legal practitioner, Bongani Matthew Lani is not yet off the hook, as there may still be a case to answer to. Section 39 of the Health Professions Act clearly stipulates that no person can perform any act pertaining to health if they are not registered in terms of the Act.
And similarly, in Section 40, it says that it is an offence to pretend to be a registered medical professional or to even use the title to lead people on to believe that you are a medical professional. So it is an offence at the end of the day. There are legal implications that are involved here.
On Tuesday, the controversial bogus doctor Lani walked free after charges were withdrawn against him. He was facing charges for impersonating a doctor. But Hall says the video content of Lani claiming to be a doctor could potentially incriminate him.
In many defamation cases, actually, they have used, Facebook posts and maybe tweets, and they've used that against people in court. And in fact, we have the Electronic Communications and Transactions Act, which also regulates the admission of electronic evidence. So it's very possible that it could be used against you.
And for Lani,
and then to my fans, they have been supportive from day one. They have been amazing. And then with my naysayers, people will always be opinionated. So it is live, it's okay.
Lani's lawyers told ENCA that they're yet to receive instructions from their client whether they'll be taking legal action against the Gauteng Department of Health. Meanwhile, the MPA says the matter is still under investigation. Pule Lee Treaty Jones in Johannesburg.
Stay tuned to Week in One. Coming up, we'll look at some of the big interviews done by our anchors this week. Welcome back to Week in One. My name is Dibuseng Milwe. Controversial bogus doctor Matthew Lani's arrest and court case has been a talking point of our shows this week. Charges against him were withdrawn in the Johannesburg Magistrate Court due to lack of evidence. ENCA's Tami Ngubeni spoke to the chairperson of SA Medical Association.
Talk to us about how prevalent this situation is. Dr. or so-called Dr. Matthew Lani is not the only one who has been posing as a doctor.
Tell me, this is very disheartening. You'll understand that in the past we've been told that the HPCSA have identified and led to arrest of about 124 fake doctors. So we know now that this is very prevalent in our communities, and I think that is why now we have to strengthen what the HPCSA is doing. I commend them for the inspectorate unit that is on the ground. But I think, as you have, you may have heard, that it is actually dangerous for them as well. They have to travel there with security protection, to identify these fake doctors. But what we have noted now is that people are not afraid of the law. They just come out, in the public and claim to be doctors when actually they don't have any of these qualifications.
What's quite concerning here, Doctor, is that in the case of Lani, for example, he was actually giving medical advice online, and he's actually selling medication as well. What advice would you give to the community as to how to approach this?
It is very difficult for communities, to be identifying or even verifying those doctors who are online using social media platforms. But it is important that we know that we need not take social media platforms seriously when it comes to fake people who are claiming to be healthcare professionals. I think we need to protect ourselves and make sure that we are dealing with somebody who's registered, because in most cases, those people don't use their actual name. They use the social media identity.
Our shows followed up on Finance Minister Enoch Godongwana's budget speech and got some much-needed analysis on what this means for South Africans. ENCA's Dan Moyani spoke to economist Davi Root.
There's an undertone there. There's a clear message that budget cuts are coming and there's no more bailouts just for free and none currently for Transnet, for example, until certain things have happened according to the minister. There is also an extension of the SRD, that special COVID-19 social distress grant, by another year, that 24 billion rand being thrown in. That was expected as well.
Okay, my first impressions, the budget of the Minister of Finance, I think the Minister is generally too optimistic in terms of his expectations for economic growth, as an example. I don't think we're going to see economic growth of 0.8% and certainly not close to 2% in 2 years' hence. So I think too optimistic as far as that is concerned. And then there's something that we have to be aware of, and that is the Minister is quite, let's call it economic with the truth here. Because there are certain of these figures that are very important to economists and to analysts and to the International Monetary Fund and the rating agencies. And those are figures like, for example, what the deficit is going to be, what the debt numbers are going to be. And clearly the Minister of Finance did not include many items in those figures. Let me give you one or two examples. In the case of Eskom, for instance, Eskom numbers are not included in there. The IMF previously already indicated that it should be included in there. In the meantime, Eskom's the finances deteriorated even further. We just heard yesterday they made another loss of 24 billion rand. And Eskom can't go on like this. And obviously the day is going to come when Eskom are going to ask for even more money. And that is not included in the deficit, or is not included in the deficit or in the debt numbers whatsoever. The same goes for the local authorities. The local authorities, the Minister of Finance promises that he's going to alleviate, write off, his words, about a third of the local authorities' debt. That's approximately 20 billion rand. That also is not included in the deficit, but it's also not included in the debt numbers.
Last weekend, history was made when the Springboks secured a historic and unprecedented 4th Rugby World Cup win when they defeated the All Blacks by 1 point. Some analysts have praised the team for its transformation progress. Professor John Patricius had this discussion with anchor Dan Moyani.
I guess once there's a plan in place and you're preparing for it, there's a vision and a strong leadership, you are able to follow it through properly.
That's correct. And we see the leaders who present themselves to us on the screen, Siya Kolisi being part of that and probably the face of the team, Rassie and Jacques as well. But behind the scenes, there's a very competent South African rugby board that has very sound leadership, which is not something we always see in South African sport. And I want to pay credit to the medical leadership as well. Dr. Jerome Mampane, who puts in tremendous hours during the games, during travel and in preparation, and his medical team who he led, and the conditioning team as well. So in every respect, there is leadership that has come to the fore during this campaign. And if we as South Africans want to take something out of it, it is really that we can, as a country, in various spheres, achieve a lot if we have a strategy that is well led and has everybody buying into it and applying that strategy in every sense.
You know, that hashtag they've been using on social media, as you were speaking there now, Prof, comes to mind, hashtag stronger together. And in every sphere. I mean, look how diverse this box squad is currently. It's taken years, of course, to get there, but it's not based on favors or deployments, on political deployments. It's based on competence. It is on merit.
That was part of a strategic plan. The Elite Development Program has brought through the best players through our youth system. And if I think back 8 or 10 years ago, there were two New Zealand coaches, well-respected, Steve Hansen and Graham Henry, who publicly stated that South Africa will never be a force in world rugby because they were forced to select certain players. And I think the results of the last few weeks have proven that wrong. We've seen now that exactly what you said, it's not a cliche, stronger together. We're now drawing on a far more diverse pool of players. And that is a philosophy that should be applied in every sphere of South African life.
After the break, we take you back to the moment which once again united South Africans from all cultures and background as the Springboks brought home the Webb Ellis Cup. Welcome back to Weekend One. My name is Dibuseng Milwe. The Springboks have returned home from France, where they lifted their record 4th Webb Ellis Cup. South Africa is the most successful rugby team at the World Cup after winning 4 titles in 8 appearances, an impressive 50% winning ratio. Let's take you back to that historic moment. Needless to say, the Springboks received a hero's welcome at OR Tambo International Airport this week.
An overwhelming reception for an outstanding team. The Springboks were greeted by thousands of jubilant fans singing and dancing to celebrate their successful defence of the Rugby World Cup. Some waited for hours just to catch a glimpse of their favourite player.
We are supporters, not just fans. We took leave, we were up by 5 a.m, we were here to have breakfast because we support the Bokke!
I'm here for the Bokke because they're my religion, they're my voice, they're my everything.
I come from Utogwa. 7 hours to be here from Trotlo because of football. Strong together, we're united. We fight together. We love you, Bokke, since from day one. Supporting you. My man is finished because of you, but I'm happy.
We just want to welcome them home. We just want to give them the support that we wish we could have given them all the way in France, but we're just happy to give it to them here right now today. They showed up for us, so we have to show up for them.
Although they've won the Webb Ellis Cup for a record 4th time, supporters say they have achieved much more.
They brought the country together. We know we come from a divided country, but look what the sport is doing. Black, white, Indians were all gathered here to welcome our champions. That's the reason why I'm here, just to say to the boys, thank you for bringing the country together. We love them.
Well done, Bokke. Thank you for taking South Africa to new heights. The 60 million people in South Africa, we're so proud of you guys. Like, you guys go there and show like what our country can do when we all unite. So, just so proud of them.
And we can't wait to see it again.
South Africans, hulle weet nie wat ons weet nie. They don't know what we know. Government, divide us. Sports unite us. Yes. Sports unite us.
They've just made our dream come true, made a country come together no matter what. And we just want to say we love you guys and thank you for everything that we do.
We love you, Bokke. We love you so much. We've been supporting from the day one. We love you so much, Bokke. We love you.
The squad's victory tour will begin on Thursday. Eugenie Grigan, Kempton Park.
A storm is brewing in the Eastern Cape after a decision was taken by SA Rugby to take the World Cup trophy tour to East London instead of Gqeberha. Many Nelson Mandela Bay residents believe their region is the historical home of Eastern Cape rugby and the province's economic hub. ENCA's Ronald Masinda reports.
Two-time Rugby World Cup winning captain Siya Kolisi and director of rugby Rassie Erasmus both hail from Nelson Mandela Bay, and it is for this reason that Mayor Gary van Niekerk believes adoring rugby fans from the region should not be deprived from experiencing the Rugby World Cup bus tour experience.
We've asked the president of SARU, Mr. Mark Alexander, as well as the gentleman organizing the tour, Mr. Yusuf Jackson, and then we've also interacted with the Premier, and on top of that we've interacted with EPRU, Eastern Province Rugby Union, and we're putting all kinds of pressure on everybody involved so that we can do the right thing in the end. I think the decision they came to, it's our firm belief that it's the wrong decision.
The ANC in the province says the decision to snub Nelson Mandela Bay is a political one.
We know for a fact that there's been a tug of war between the leadership of SARU and the leadership of Eastern Province Rugby Union. For a while, if you follow rugby, you'll notice that there have not been any test matches of Springboks in Gqeberha for the past 3 or 4 years. And the question is why? Whilst we know that it's got a rich history of rugby and it's got following of rugby. And then you will conclude that this is just a snap.
Meanwhile, former Springbok Tim Dlulani says he understands why the Buffalo City Metro has been chosen as the destination of choice in the Eastern Cape.
But what I believe SA Rugby's selection was, who is in the team that has an impact within the communities, which is coming in with the Eastern Cape. We are fortunate to have Mampimbi, Lucanio M on that team, and then so not being cheeky. And so it will be about time for Nelson Mandela Bay and to have a Springbok in the team, then we're knowing that now in the planning, you are going home, taking the cup home. I think that is their selection and looking at the impact of the communities and the distance.
The Rugby World Cup Bus Trophy Tour will wrap up in East London on Sunday. Ronald Masinda, East London.
And that's a wrap of this week's episode of Week in One. From myself and the rest of the team, have a great weekend.